topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Are you ready to take a journey? Let's connect with the healers of the world. It's that time. It's time for the Language of Healing on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Now here's your host, Emotional Wisdom Training Specialist Nicole Fortin.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome to the Language of Healing. Today's topic and guest is Cheryl Fountain, and we're talking about assertiveness. And she's just written and launched a new book, and we're here to celebrate that and talk about what brought her to write this book and share it and share this message of assertiveness, which I believe is a great, topic to be talking about. Assertiveness, opening up that conversation around what that really is and what difference it can make for us. So what I know about assertiveness is that it is sharing the information that makes a difference, that makes the difference in a respectful, respecting way, and that you are deserving of respect, whether you get it or not. And before I really dove into assertiveness, because it's been a topic that's interested me in my communication skills, it's something that I've really wanted to get better at. So I have been training, and so Cheryl will help us understand a little bit more about that training and how that's possible for you in your life. But before, I probably believed, that the meaning of assertiveness was something a bit more on the aggressive scale, like a bit harder. And I've discovered that it's really not. There's passive and passive aggressive. And assertiveness is really a step above that dynamic. So when you step into assertiveness, you are stepping into the adult, the mature, responsible, respectful adult, making decisions and choices that are based on what you want, and getting more clear on what you want is really the key here. And because when we're communicating, we have these obviously patterns and habits that we've formed, or things we've learned along the way that we're just kind of like thrown out there, like trying to get what we want and communicating it, asking for it, but not necessarily getting that in return. So this is an opportunity to step back and get really clear on what it is that you want. What are you asking for? And being able to communicate that in a respectful way. So assertiveness is really just facts, not emotional, right? It's just clear and direct. And there's a certain lightness that comes with that. I don't know if you've noticed in communication with others or in relation with others that you're trying to express what you want or your needs, or anything. Maybe you're trying to ask for even a raise, like stepping into that assertiveness and not tending to go towards the passive or the aggressive or passive-aggressive communication styles. So I think this is a great time to talk about this a little bit more, and I'm really excited to bring on our next guest. She has a social work degree, is an emotional wisdom training specialist and core alignment coach specialist, and a professional businesswoman for over 19 years. So she knows how to communicate clearly and effectively. And let's welcome our next guest, Cheryl Fountain.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Nicole, thank you.
Yes. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what's happening for you lately?
Okay, so well, you summed it up. So I do coaching and skills training through my business, Different Choices Training, and I've been doing a lot of work on that for many years. And what kind of came out of some of the programs I was developing was assertiveness training, particularly because this benefited me so much in my life, and I thought it was really important to share this information with others. And what sparked my interest in assertiveness was, of course, my own passivity in my life from when I was born, one of those very gentle spirits who just went along with what everybody else said, and very gullible, very childlike kind of personality where I just believed people and their needs and wants were more important than my own. And it's just the way I was conditioned. And a lot of women are conditioned like this in just social programming, just to be more calm and more polite and dainty. And it's changing though, that dynamic is changing, and which is good. And so as you were saying in the introduction, a lot of people think assertiveness means aggression, and it's quite the opposite. Assertiveness is a way of getting what you want in a more respectful way than any of the other communication style choices. And from my workshops that I was doing, I noticed how quickly it was benefiting people who were getting information. So a simple thing is changing your posture, how you're sitting at work, and how people perceive you at work and communicate with you at work was some of the things that some of the people in my programs were noticing. A word choice also. Words are power. They're connected to memories in our brains and triggers and emotional responses. So what words you use can actually change how you're perceived and respected. And then after I saw the results in my courses and programs with people, I was like, I have to write a book, because I have all the information. And a book is a way of getting that out there, the information out there more easily. And it's in a, you can get it on an electronic book or physical book, however people prefer it. And it's all in here. So like all the different techniques and skills, it's easy accessible. There's like different like chapters and different sections. You can just open up to like learning about the, you can't see that, but different communication choices. You can look up the different techniques and skills in one section. So it's almost like a reference book with some backstory in there to explain what led me on my assertiveness journey and why it's really important for all of us to learn more about assertiveness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Could you show us the cover again? So this book is available on Amazon, right? You said ebook version and paperback copy. And Assertiveness, life-changing communication skill. You can find that on Amazon. Well, there's so many things to unpack here. I have so many questions for you.
Awesome.
Firstly, okay, so you host workshops and classes and group sessions. And so through those group sessions, you observed and got the feedback from how assertiveness was really making a difference in these people's lives. And then you wrote a book to reflect that through your experience.
Yeah.
And where do you host these workshops or these groups?
Well, to be quite honest, it was post-COVID. So I would do
or pre-COVID?
Oh yeah, sorry, pre-COVID. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
We're all like hoping for the post-COVID.
Before the world changed, and it was in-person group work. So either already established group like a youth group or a women's group, or I would put up a flyer at the local community centers or in the grocery stores and have them for different people from the community to come join. And mostly women signed up for these classes. And it's an 8-week program, the one that I developed. And I really encourage men as well. However, I only had one male person, and he was in a youth group who joined the program. So it is, a lot of women are more attracted to this style of communication and wanting to learn more about it. So after COVID, I moved. So I used to live in Yellowknife, and it's a really nice community there. I was really ingrained in the community, and we moved just for some life changes. And then COVID hit, and I'm going to try to do it online. As we're doing this online, we're not in a radio studio or anything. So I'm going to be incorporating it online through Zoom and doing it that way. I do miss the in-person experience though, because it's a really nice time to take for yourself, where you're around other people with the same kind of intentions and to learn about something that you're mutually wanting to benefit from and learn from. And I'm hoping to capture that same spirit online, which I know lots of people have had great success with. So it's going to be moving on to the online format until we can meet again in person.
Mm. But for now, we can go and get the book and take some of those tools and resources in our hands, get those in our hands. So you mentioned, I'm curious about the communication styles, that they're just like a choice. And there's, you can choose a different style. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so basically there's 4 communication style choices. So we're taught mostly in life through our parents and our teachers and our communities, like how to communicate. And oftentimes, I love our families, but oftentimes we don't use the most respectful communication with one another. It's just learned from years of like grandparents passing on to their children, passing on to their grandchildren, et cetera. It's just family dynamics is how we're operated. And so passive is the one, we already kind of talked about that. So that is when you kind of put other people's values and beliefs and opinions in front of your own and make them more important than your own. Also, you might not speak up, might be scared to speak up. Things like if someone calls you by the wrong name, you might not correct them and just let them call you by the wrong name for hours. You might, like you were talking about wanting a raise, you just don't want to speak up about it. Or thinking you're not deserving of it. So there's a lot of self-esteem issues under the passivity. Also, it's a main program, like a culturally supported program for women in particular. Then there's aggression, which is what a lot of people mistake assertiveness for. And aggression is being really loud unnecessarily. I mean, there is a time though you need to use aggression. If someone is attacking you, you need to yell, you need to scream, you need to fight, right? So aggression is also physical, using your physical body, hitting, punching, spitting, swearing, name calling. And aggression is considered bad, and it is not valued in our society unless you are a man and you are fighting, or it's kind of expected of men to be more aggressive. But we do need to use aggression in our lives to protect ourselves, our children in dangerous situations. Because let's face it, I love the world. I want it to be a better world, but there is some people out there who do hurtful behaviors towards others, which is aggressive. And sometimes that's a safe response. And also there's animals out there that might attack you. You have to become aggressive at some points in life. And then there's passive aggression, which is quite, that one's a neat one. So the person is really angry inside, but they don't tell you, but they'll do aggressive acts like slamming cupboards, like kind of using a tone that, what would be an example of like a tone where it's like kind of strong and high pitched, kind of saying, well, what do you think about that? Like kind of that kind of thing, versus telling you, you really upset me that you didn't help me with the dishes. Instead, they'll be like, you're slamming dishes and they're like, is everything okay? Like your family? And the person says, everything's fine. Slam, slam, slam. So that's passive aggression. It's a really neat one. A lot of us do that. I do that. I've really stopped doing that since I've been more informed about assertive behavior and the different communication choices. And then the fourth is assertiveness, where it's like you said, taking the respectful adult that we perceive on TV, that we all want to be, the calm mind, seeing a clear perspective, looking at all the different things that is going on around you. And responding in the best way possible for the situation. So instead of slamming the dishes, I communicate to my partner or my children, I would really appreciate help with the dishes. Or even maybe I didn't have and I was upset. I can always change my behavior. So I'm slamming the dishes and they say, is everything okay? I stop, take a breath, say, you know what? No, I'm really frustrated. I just really want some help right now. That kind of thing. And it's you're on an equal playing field with whomever you are talking to. So even if, like nonviolent crisis intervention, for instance, you start with assertively responding to a person. So like if they're showing signs of stress or they're starting to escalate in their either physical behavior or their verbal behavior, you talk in a nice, calm, even tone. And that's also a part of communication, is how fast you speak, the tone you use. Eye contact in some cultures, in other cultures, eye contact is seen as aggressive. So it's about where you are. And that's part of assertiveness, is gathering as much information around you as possible to help you make the best response that is respectful, not only of yourself. So you don't put yourself aside. It's coming from you. It's the truth from you. And communicating that truth to somebody else, keeping in mind their emotions and where they're at. But it doesn't mean you don't upset anybody, because you can't control how other people react, right? So it's about knowing that where you're coming from is from a respectful, attentive space. And then you're delivering your message in a way to support that's where you're coming from. And then not taking responsibility for other people's behavior, because that's a huge one. That is huge, because a lot of us do that. We're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Well, maybe you could have said it differently, but maybe you needed to say that. It's not, you can't, like, literally you could say you look beautiful today and somebody could think you're insulting them, but you actually mean you look beautiful today. So it's taking responsibility for your own and giving enough information so that other people can take responsibility for their own behavior.
Wow, I'm just thinking about even like in the traveling world, I've gone to many countries that have different cultures and backgrounds. And yeah, like you say, gathering as much information about that and showing up, because their language or their communication style might be a little bit different, and you want to like respect and meet that level. I find that very interesting, because I've also studied Chinese medicine and been to China, and also, like, I would say India and China, they're very like, I just 360, right? You're just like in this new environment, and to have that openness to want to respect and communicate with people on your level. I'm just thinking of that aspect. So like when we mix the East and the West, and even just masculine, feminine energy dynamics. Okay, what's this? What kind of body gestures would you incorporate in learning to be more assertive? That's a really good question. Body posture. Okay, I will tell you, because I'm like you, Cheryl, tend to be more of the passive. I'm a peacekeeper. I don't want to rock the boat. I just want everyone to be happy. And I remember a time when I was a little kid, I just thought the world was like rainbows and unicorns, and everyone was just happy in this imagination, like land. That was me. And then, you start to live life and encounter these experiences. And then going back to Rachel's question there about posture, like I noticed within myself, then you tend to shut down. And even like, if I exaggerate this is a posture that I will take as like a closed in, don't see me, I'm hiding, I don't, like, leave me alone, or just like, get me out of here. Yeah, and that just, I've noticed that doesn't serve me well. So what do you have to say about posture and assertiveness?
posture is not just for assertiveness, but for your own mental well-being is a huge a portion of this, the assertiveness training, but just general well-being. So in a lot of like leadership courses and speaking and communication courses, they teach you, and this is the same as assertiveness, your shoulders are back, like you were talking, scrunched over is more hiding, covering, the arms crossed is more of the passive, covering your center there, your self-center. So it's for assertive posture, shoulders back, making eye contact in North American culture. If you're standing tall, again, shoulders back, making eye contact. Your arms are not crossed in front of you, so either the sides or you can. If you're fidgety, you can kind of clasp your hands over, like kind of fold them, and then kind of like make arm gestures to help, when you're talking instead of fidgeting. Because I'm a fidgeter, I used to doodle a lot. What else is to prepare for meetings or big conversations beforehand, there's the Superman or Superwoman pose that people talk about. And it's done, this is taught in leadership training as well. So you put your hands on the sides, like kind of like this, and you kind of stick out your chest like you have a cape behind you, and you're like a Superman pose. If you picture Superman, just like replicate that, and it actually kind of like opens your throat. So if you think about speaking your mind, your throat chakra. So when you're all enclosed, you're literally cutting that off. So you have it open, and you're kind of tall, and when you do the Superman or Superwoman pose, your shoulders are back, your chest is out, you're not afraid, your heart is leading. So that's over exaggerated, but it brings this energy to you to prepare for conversations. It builds your confidence. Just sitting and standing with a more straight posture overall supports that as well. There was like literally that encaved position, and this is how we work at our desks. And I'm not gonna lie, I still do it because a lot of us are at home now, and we're like not ergonomically proper, and it just brings you down. It's a shift in your emotions, it's a shift in your energy. Plus, you also ask for more respect when you're standing tall, standing in your own self. Your heart you're open, you're not scared. If you are faced with maybe somebody that's kind of talking down to you, definitely do that posture thing, but also feel free to stand up at their level. And I know, so again, you can put your hands on your hips, just don't close them over your heart or your solar plexus there. Stand up on their level and in a respectful way, just because you're on their level. So it's not really aggressive. It's more sort of just be like, listen, like I hear you and I'm on your level, and make that eye contact with them. It just gives them a sign that, you are, you're listening. But if somebody's really upset, maybe don't get up right away in case, for that nonviolent crisis kind of intervention. Like, don't do it quickly, just, kind of go slowly and just be like, hey, I really care about you. Use those nice, calm, slow hand gestures. Openness communicates that you're not scared, but you're also there to help. But if you do this and cower, it does affect your emotions, how you're perceived. And even doing this right now makes me feel like I want to curl up in bed and hide. So let's go back to these.
Yeah, body language is so critical. Like, in speaking about assertiveness, I learned a little trick. When you're talking about having the hips, like hands on your hips, that having your fingers out is more respectful, let's say, than having like thumbs out on your hips versus fingers out on your hips. It's like, if your fingers out on the hips, you're more like the thumb is individual. It's like all about me. So when you have the fingers out, you're open to others.
That's neat, because I'm doing it right now and I see the difference. It's almost like you're in pain and you're holding your back or something, versus with your thumbs out. And then with your fingers forward, that's the way I've naturally done it. It's more confident, more certain, more strong feeling.
Yeah. And then when you are like, say, we'll use, like asking for a raise or even just asking to have help with the dishes, there's a significant difference energetically between how you're holding your body. And like you said, assertiveness is a stance that is calm. And I mean, really just sharing the information that matters. Really. It's, so it's coming from a calm, confident, grounded, factual place, and like what's true for us, that's where you like want to share what's really true for you and like in your values or your needs. And
yeah, absolutely. And I must clarify though, you're not always feeling calm on the inside. It's
right.
just you're presenting your
But that's
body language.
but the energetics of that posture like emanate calm, confidence, like grounded, anchored almost, versus like out of your body in that passive aggressive dynamic, when you can almost like be out of your body, like that you're not really in and speaking truth or being, so you have a line that I really love in your book that I think what is it, speaking up and from yourself.
Yes, so
Is that it? Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm going to be titling my assertiveness training, Assertiveness, Speaking Up and From Yourself, when I do the online training. So that's the whole point is so self-esteem is a huge part. So when you practice assertiveness, your self-esteem just grows. So you might be terrified while you're learning how to do this because it's a new thing, right? And you're speaking up. It's really difficult for a lot of people to speak up and from yourself. So you use passive, and aggressive behavior because you don't know how, or it's not an effective way to do it. So instead of communicating gently, along the way about this is what I want, this is what I like, instead you blow up or you don't say anything. So it's practice. And I use a karate as an example because it's a really good analogy to what an assertiveness practice is. You learn about it, you learn how to communicate what you want, and then you practice different ways of doing it in an assertive way. Because it's not always easy to speak from your heart and what you really want. Like if you're working really hard, you said asking for a raise. I've actually done that in my past. You got to gather information around that to support you, like kind of check the market to see what other people are being paid for that same position. And then you got to, approach your boss and just explain why you think you need it. And obviously, if you really want to raise, it's not just I just want to raise just because. There's reasons behind that. So you learn how to communicate those reasons. And one way is like scripting the conversation ahead of time. So come up with your reasons ahead of time, come up with some, if they say this or this, some responses to it, and practice it ahead of time. It helps. So the speaking up from yourself is huge on your self-esteem, because the more you speak your mind about what your beliefs are, what your values are, how you see the situation, instead of just accepting other people's realities, it's basically communicating your reality to others in a respectful way. And I think it's a huge thing in our society. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, even online, like all those opinions aren't really nice. Like the way that they throw it out there, it kind of like, you're wrong, or this is the right way. And the thing is, there's so many people, like, what is it now? 7.5 billion people on the planet. And we're all our own unique selves and our own unique universes. So to say that, there's a wrong way and a right way, there's no way there's one way for 7.5 or whatever billion people. We're all different. We have different cultures. We have different upbringings, different values. And this is why my company, my coaching company is called Different Choices Training, because we really are all unique and we have unique environments around us that we need to respond to. And the best way to do that is from your true self. And it's not just like off on a whim. It's, you do a lot of self-investigation about what, is true to you. Maybe the religion you were born into doesn't really work for you, or, your parental communication styles. Like a lot of us learn our communication styles in response to those, and you analyze that a bit and find out, what is a different way I can say this that's really true to myself, so I can express myself in a respectful way, while also like including respecting myself and respecting other people around me. I think it just make a bigger, like a better world, in the sense that people could actually communicate and deal with conflict in a more respectful way, instead of using war or hatred or blame or mine's better than yours, or this is right and this is wrong. Like, let's really like all calm down, take a step back, and like start appreciating each other's and our differences is the core message.
Hmm. Yeah, how we can just respect each other in all the different channels or pathways that we choose to, go through life. Um, okay, I have a couple more questions I want to ask you, and this one might be a little bit tangenty because I don't know. What do you think about this? Because telepathy on a communication style, because, and I know maybe it's not anything like concrete and solid, but when we talk about the passive aggressive, it's almost like, well, shouldn't they know that I'm feeling like this? Like, but I don't know. I'm thinking about telepathy, like these signals that we can transmute to each other, one another, and communication on an energetic level too. Like we talk about body language, and that's nonverbal communication. I'm sure that's like what are your thoughts around that?
Well, there's a whole energy section committed to my book, and it's everything's energy. So it's not as thick as I'd like that section to be. I think that's its own book, and I think it's mostly highlighted in the passive aggression. We're like, for instance, kids are energy sponges. They pick up on everything. They pick up on and as we grow, we learn differently. So some of us continue to feel other people's energies and like you're talking telepathy or like mental signals, because it's all electrical signals, right? And there's different energy components to the sound vibrations. Some people actually feel other people's emotions. It's called being an empath or empathy. And as you grow, sometimes you lose some of that, and sometimes you gain more skills to be able to read those different energy frequencies. So yeah, it's huge, especially with kids. And I highlight that a lot in the passive aggression, because they don't know what's wrong, and they're hearing their parents say, or their caregivers say nothing's wrong, but they feel something's wrong, and so they actually internalize that, and it builds their whole programming about something's wrong, even if everything looks okay and everyone says everything's okay, everything's wrong. And they can carry that through their entire lives. And I know myself, I'm a super sensitive being. One reason why assertiveness is so important to me, I used to have extreme social anxiety where I couldn't even walk into buildings because I was too scared, because I could feel everybody's energy. And it was like overwhelming. And that's another part about taking the responsibility. Kids, people with sensitive energy or sensitive to energy vibrations can actually take on responsibility for everybody else's emotions. So it's learning how to navigate in the world with that. And then as an adult / caregiver to younger people is teaching them about that, so that they can learn how to kind of not protect themselves, but learn how to navigate the different emotions and find out what's really theirs, what triggers emotions. And that's also in the book, emotional, like how there's an emotional trigger. Then you have a physiological response, and then you try to find meaning about it. So you might not actually, the meaning you make about why you're upset about something might actually have nothing to do with why you're upset. You're just trying to grasp at it, right? So triggers can be under consciousness, like unconscious and subconscious triggers. And that's the emotional wisdom training portion of, and the emotional wisdom theory of the assertiveness stance that I communicate in the book and in my programs. So yeah, I think the funny thing with telepathy is like some people probably can do it, but they don't know. So there is a form of energy sensitivity where you can actually sense intentions and feelings of others. And a lot of people, like how you say something and the emotion behind it does have power, right? in those great, like some great speeches and stuff, like when people speak them, you know when it's coming from the heart, you know when they're just reading it out, because you can tell the difference. That's how some people, are more charismatic than others too, is how they present themselves, the emotions they put behind what they say. And I think
there's like sorry to interrupt, but like I think that there's a skill, around, because like say a kid is picking up on this passive aggressiveness, like there is a whole other chapter of information there that's not being communicated. So the body, we still perceive that information, and then we don't know what to do with it, right? So like you say, it just gets like kind of shoved down there, and then we develop like, oh, this is normal to not talk about like the elephant in the room, or something like that, but we don't know how to communicate and express that without being the passive or aggressive. And another thing I would love to hear your thoughts around is how women, like, or people of minority that have been suppressed and kind of not given that platform, if they tend to be more of the passive strain, and then they start to speak up for themselves, and it tends to go, then the pendulum swings to the aggressive side. And that just creates like, it's like, oh no, shoot, that's not what I meant, so assertiveness is like actually above it. And
that's the karate analogy. Is so in karate you make mistakes, you're aiming, you miss, right? Or you hit too hard. Oh my gosh, thank you, partner, for not, getting mad at me, because it's part of learning karate. And it's the same with assertiveness. So exactly what you said, if you've been passive for a long time, and you can easily flip to aggression because you're just everything's like kind of condensed in this ball of non-expression. And a lot of very passive people can get very aggressive and explode, right? And when they're learning, and you're learning to find your voice and speaking up and from yourself, sometimes you do become more aggressive. Sometimes you maybe not, the opposite is really quiet or something. Maybe a more aggressive person is trying to be less aggressive and more assertive, and they might whisper or not be able to speak because they don't know how. So it does affect that, but it's part of the practice. Just keep practicing. You can always, say, you know what, I'm really sorry. I said this, and I said it in such a manner. This is how I would like to say it. You can't really take back name calling and stuff other than apologize and say, you know what, it was really not kind of me to say that. What really was going on is this is how I was really feeling, and I was trying to protect myself, and I did it in not a good way. And this is how I want to do it moving forward. And I'm really sorry. And I'd like to repair this, right? Like my intention was to do this, but instead I, called you a name, and that wasn't appropriate.
Right. So assertiveness is like that piece where you say what you mean, and you communicate easily what you mean.
Yeah.
So what, do you have any practices or like a little exercise that might be useful to our listeners today?
Yeah, I have lots of them.
Okay.
I'll start with a very simple one. So we're talking about words and how words have power. And there's a simple thing you can incorporate in your life, in your relationships, in your workplace communication. Just incorporating I word, like using I in sentences, like I see it as this instead of you did this. So maybe I don't know if there's managers listening here, maybe an employee put in their report late. You can say, I've noticed that the reports have been coming in late. What's going on with that, versus is you have not been putting your reports in on time, with the whole finger shaking thing. Same with your family. Like maybe your husband talked to you in a tone that you didn't like too much. You can say, when I heard that tone, I felt belittled or something. And I love you. And I'm not sure if that's what you meant, but that's how I heard it. And then it gives them an opportunity. Sometimes they just react and they're like, what are you talking about? But then they can start using their I words. I didn't intend to use that tone. It's a practice that you can incorporate that's easy. And it just takes basically, again, so you're your own universe. That other person you're speaking with is their own universe. You perceive from yourself, right? but you don't know what's going on in their mind. So when you use I words and I sentences, incorporating I into your questioning or into your perception, you're basically taking responsibility for how you're seeing it and not assuming that's what their intentions were. And so it's a good way of clarifying, that this is how I'm seeing it. Please feel free to open up and tell me how you intended or how you're seeing it as well. So then once you both have each other's information, you can work toward a solution if there's a conflict. And it's also respecting each other's individuality.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really important. I love that you say that, just making it about, and not in a selfish, well, it is kind of selfish, right? It's like, this is me in my bubble, like in my space. And, it's a great, relationships are a great mirror for, witnessing and unraveling the patterns that we've developed over time, like the feelings and thoughts and beliefs that we've created, because that's all it really is, right? Like the reaction or the response to, generally we're reacting to the reaction to the reaction. And, like that is an exhausting cycle, right? But assertiveness just even. And I loved what you said at the beginning about something around meeting. I mean, whoever you're interacting with, you're equal, right? It's like equal. So, and in Shinto Buddhism, like in Japan, how they bow to each other, like that's a very, the philosophy is that you're greeting God or, like the supreme being everywhere you go. So in Japan, what makes it beautiful is the attention to detail, because everything is presented as if you're like presenting to the highest of the highest, right? And so you see the other as that, they see you as that, and you bow to each other.
That's beautiful.
Respect. Yeah.
That's, all of us really, and that's part of my message for Different Choices training is, I've been homeless. I've worked with homeless people. I've also worked with diamond mind executives. Like I've worked with the complete opposite pools of people, and we're all human. We all have fears. We all make mistakes. We all become aggressive at points, passive at points. Like we're all living in a life, and we're creating our own realities every moment. And like not that you create your reality, and if you're like born into homelessness or poverty and stuff, that's not you. So you're responding to your environments as well as trying to create within those environments that you're in. And love and respect, like there's a lot of fear between the different people. Like, people with lots of money can fear, losing the money, or people with no money can fear not being able to eat. There's so much fear. And if we could actually like communicate and like realize we're all humans and we're actually really all on the same level and we work the same way, like our minds work the same way. Like we all have different, like, how do I say this? Histories and stuff that kind of program our brains in a certain way, but we're born with the way, like, unless you have like a developmental issue or something, our brains function pretty much the same way. And we develop the same patterns of behavior through our neural pathways similarly. We all can change. We all can make different choices to be more respectful, kinder, find different ways of working through conflict other than hurting and hating each other. Like there's so many options other than war and hatred that like, let's choose differently. Let's use assertiveness, teach it to our kids, teach it in our classrooms, teach it to anyone ourselves and anyone we come and encounter with. There are options out there to be more respectful and kind to each other in this world.
It's so needed right now. I think we're at this like crux or this apex of total polarity. We've seen that really, well, I've noticed at least, like there's a lot of division and polarity, and that's not a bad thing. I think it shows us where the boundaries are, and then using a tool and a resource like assertiveness and really developing that skill, because I think it is a skill that needs training and education, more information around, and practice. Like I don't know, I've been thinking of, improv classes, but what if we had like assertiveness, like improv classes? It's like, someone disrespects you. What do you do? Like when you know that you deserve respect and, or what do you do when you're afraid and you need to stand up for yourself and ask for what you want? So your website, differentchoicestraining.com, is one way that we can find you. And you have a Facebook page of the same name, Different Choices Training. And is there a link to your book through there, or should they just, can go to Amazon? I know there's a difference in the US and Canada, so be mindful of that, please.
It's on Amazon.com, Amazon.ca. It's Assertiveness, a life-changing communication skills. The links are also on my webpage. I believe you have to kind of navigate my webpage, look under books, and there's some links in my Facebook feed as well. So yeah, please do get the book. It's a good read. A lot of people who have read it so far have personally contacted me and quite thoroughly enjoyed it. So I encourage you also leave a review on Amazon. Wanting to get the word out there, I believe everyone can benefit from this information. And check out my website. I'll be running some workshops, and if you have an already established group, you can sign up and we can work a schedule that works for you and your group. I want to get this information out there to as many people as possible.
Yeah, so you'll work with like corporations, like individuals and businesses.
Yeah, and a lot of groups, like youth groups, women's groups, different businesses, different, usually what they do is pick people who kind of want to learn the skills. It just benefits everybody from all walks of life. So yeah, very open. I do encourage men also to join. I know you'll learn a lot.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Very informative and fun. I really appreciate your time joining us today, Cheryl. And I look forward to receiving the book. It's on the way. And I hope that the listeners have taken away something from this too, because we're just opening the conversation, and I would love to keep it going. If you listeners have any comments or questions, just leave them in the comments or contact Cheryl or myself, and we can get you in the loop that way and on your assertiveness journey. So any last words, Cheryl, before we say goodbye?
I'm really thankful for this opportunity to spread the message about assertiveness. It's really important. It's great for kids and youth and adults alike. Like, everyone can benefit from this. If we start teaching our youth earlier and our children earlier, just build stronger humans to lead our world. So I highly recommend looking into it for yourselves and for your loved ones.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. It's so important. So important, the work that you do. I'm very grateful. And also I've benefited so much from assertiveness myself, in being the captain of my own ship, so to speak, as my message is knowing what you want and asking for it and showing up, keeping your word, and having a natural attitude of gratitude along the way. I hope you enjoy a nice weekend, Cheryl. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Take care. Bye. All right. What a great show. Great episode. So many great things to take from this. Food for thought, right? Around our posture, how we're standing, how we're keeping our, oh, hi, Heather. Thank you. How we're speaking what we truly mean and communicating what we really want, and how we've perceived it, sharing our experience from a very authentic, real place that is taking responsibility, just owning and taking responsibility for where you're at and where you want to go. So I hope that you've taken something from this today, and I will ask you what will support you from today's conversation until we meet again. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Wow, what a show today, and the journey does not stop here. Come travel the world with Nicole every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, as together we become more fluent in the language of healing on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. See you next week.